Let me tell you about ProHealthConnect.com. It's transforming healthcare payments, providing retailers a seamless process for over-the-counter and healthy benefit programs. By connecting retailers, health plans, and payment processors, ProHealth Connect creates one powerful, unified network. They empower independent grocers and pharmacies to accept health benefit cards without changing how they do business. With over 10,000 locations nationwide, helping more than 1.3 million people access the care and nutrition they need. Go to ProHealthConnect.com.
Listen, all you New Yorkers.
Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. I'm economist Steve Moore. I want to turn for my next guest to an old friend who is plugged in more on both the economy and politics of anyone I know, Ralph Reed. You know Ralph Reed. He is the founder of Faith and Freedom Coalition. Ralph, thanks for joining.
You bet, Steve. Good to be with you.
So a lot to talk about, Ralph. First of all, I was, as you probably know, I was there on last Saturday night, when we had the melee at the White House Correspondents' dinner. And I just wanted to run something by you. I thought there were a lot of odd things about that evening, and I think there were a lot of safety protocols that were broken at that event, that dinner. One of which, Ralph, I wonder what you think about this, is that there in that room was the president, the vice president, the speaker of the House, and 5 of the 6 in succession for the presidency. That just didn't seem very advisable to me. And I mean, what if he had a bomb? So what do you think about that?
Well, I think they've already publicly indicated, both the Correspondents Association and the White House, that they're going to take another look at this event. And my sense is... Well, that's
good news, by the way.
I have no inside information. Okay. And as you know, Steve, because you've spoken there, Faith and Freedom holds its annual policy conference at that same hotel.
Yes.
And I have welcomed the president to our stage in that same ballroom multiple times.
Had you ever had any problems with security?
Not at that hotel. We did have a bomb threat once when we were at the Omni Shoreham.
Got it.
But we've never had any issues with the president, either as an incumbent president or as a candidate.
Right.
But my sense, and I was not at the dinner, is that the ballroom was secure, that there was no danger that gunman was ever going to be able to breach the security cordon around that ballroom. And I won't go into a lot of details. Yeah. There's things that I know, having hosted events there, of what was awaiting him had he gotten there.
And by the way, let me just interrupt you for 1 second on that. So, I was at the Wall Street Journal table. We were probably about 100 feet away from the president. And we heard these 2 booms, boom, boom, like bombs going off. And we didn't know what was going on. And we thought that a gunman had entered. We didn't know until later that the gunman never even got into the thing. And so that's freaked everybody out. People were, ducking beneath the tables and so on. But the fact that he was not, and you're right, the security to get into the ballroom was pretty good. The problem was, while the pre-parties and stuff like that with all these dignitaries and stuff, you could just basically walk in, and even getting into it would have been easier to get into the Washington Wizards basketball game.
The pre-parties, as you know, Steve, are outside the metal detectors. And
that's true. That's right.
That's probably going to get changed. I'll tell you what I think will have to happen here. And I attended Charlie Kirk's funeral in Phoenix last September. I accompanied Kristi Noem, who was then head of Department of Homeland Security.
Yep.
And she told me as we were going in, to my astonishment, but it makes perfect sense, and it's to your point, Steve, your opening point. She said, this has been elevated to a national security event. I said, you're kidding me. And she said, no, this is on the level of a State of the Union address, an inaugural, or the Super Bowl. And she said the reason why is because of the line of succession. You had J.D. Vance there. You had Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who sat right in front of me. You had the same issue you had last Saturday night in D.C. Now, what happens there, and we don't need to go down a rabbit hole here, but just for the edification of your listeners, Steve, there are all kinds of security protocols that kick in with a national security event. First of all, the metal detectors and the security cordon are outside the facility. So no one entered the arena in Phoenix for that funeral without going through a metal detector outside the building. Had that been the case at the Washington Hilton, no one would have been at any pre-party armed. That entire perimeter would be secure. It would be much tighter. Now, look, I'm a little selfish here because our event's coming up in June and we've invited the president. He's come 9 times before. You know, I think they can do whatever they have to do, but here's the issue, Steve. And look, I support the president's ballroom. I think it ought to be built. I think it will be a crown jewel for the nation. It's been needed for decades. But the reality is, and I know because I do events in D.C., as do you, there's only one or two facilities in the entire city that can hold an event the size of our policy conference or the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and people are not going to be able to go to the White House ballroom every time he speaks. The larger point, in my view, Steve, the more salient and disturbing point is the level of hateful rhetoric in our country politically. I'm sorry to say on both sides, but with this president, and I've worked on 12 presidential campaigns. I have known and served 4 presidents. I have never seen a level of this bile, this hatred. And when you say for 10 years that somebody is a would-be dictator, that they're another Hitler, that they're a Nazi, fascist, that they're an authoritarian, that they're an existential threat to democracy, it is one step of logic from that premise for someone of a depraved mind or radical ideological beliefs or both to believe that that man has to be stopped violently, if necessary, at the loss of his life, if necessary. And it's a disgrace, and it needs to stop.
It is. Yeah. Now, let's talk about President Trump for a minute. I mean, I drove home, and when I got home, because there was, obviously the dinner was over. That I watched the press conference, and I mean, how he keeps his composure. He was even kind of almost comical about what was going. I mean, in other words, his courage under fire. I've never seen anything like it.
It's remarkable to watch. And I have to say, as you know, Steve, I've been friends with him for many years.
Yeah, me too.
Long before he became a candidate for president. And I have to say, my friends in New York did not speak highly of him. So I didn't have a high opinion of him when I first met him, and I told him that. But he had me from hello, and there are two things that I have seen in him. And I've had other friends who became president. I was very close to George W. Bush. I've experienced this before. But what I saw with him is, first of all, Steve, and you know this because you served under Reagan. You've been around a long time, too. This office changes the occupant. It changes the occupant because, and the average person can't really wrap their brain around this. They have the first and primary responsibility, not only for the safety and security of the greatest nation the world has ever seen, but frankly, for the entire world.
So I'm talking to Ralph Reed. He is the founder of Faith and Freedom Coalition. You're listening to the More Money Show. So Ralph, great observations. I wanted to ask you one other quick thing about that evening, which is the whole issue of the press, because this was the Washington Press Corps. And when the president came in, they were respectful. They were respectful to to Trump, but there was not, there are a bunch of us who were clapping, loudly and stuff, but most of them really weren't. But what was interesting was talking to many of these reporters afterward. I was at the Wall Street Journal, not the editorial board, their news division, and they were impressed with the way Trump handled himself. And these aren't people, as you know, the Washington press corps are not big fans of Donald Trump. No,
they're liberal and they're cynics.
But I think he won over some people with the way he handled the events of the evening. And then, he wants to do it again, Ralph. He wants to restage the, I don't know if that White House Correspondents is going to be real, but that's Trump. By the way, did you know, Ralph, he wanted to go, one, he told the Secret Service he wanted to go back on the stage.
Oh, no question. Well, look, this is a guy who, after nearly having his head blown off in a field in Butler, Pennsylvania in July of 2024, and the Secret Service agents were trying to protect him with their own bodies, he raised his fist in the air with blood streaming down his face and said, fight, fight, fight. And I think the American people see this, Steve. They see his inner core. They see his character. And I do believe, and I've talked to him about this, and he's spoken about it publicly, so I'm not sharing anything out of school here. He's been very clear, Steve, that he believes that God spared his life. So I mean this sincerely, Steve. This is not hyperbole. I am extremely grateful to the Lord for sparing this man's life, and I pray for his safety and his security daily. I believe he is an historic figure, and I think that not only what he is accomplishing in terms of the revivification of America, but also the strengthening of our economy, which you're one of the greatest experts on in the country. As soon as we get past Iran, whenever that is, and I don't know when it will be, we have to get past that. He has to finish that job. But I am telling you, and you know it, this economy is going to explode.
Yes, well put.
We got it as it did in the 1980s under Reagan, and as great as it did in the 2000s under George W. Bush.
Thank you, Ralph Reed. Excellent comments. This is the More Money Show, folks. We will be right back.
The Marine Toys for Tots foster care program is bringing hope to children who need it most. Every 2 minutes, a child enters foster care, often with only a small bag of belongings. More than 400,000 children face trauma and uncertainty, many before age 8. This May, during Foster Care Awareness Month, Toys for Tots is creating Room for Joy. In 2025, nearly 375,000 children received comfort through toys, books, and essentials, reminding them they are not alone. Donate now and change a child's life.